States Army and a grateful nation, please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your loved one's faithful and honorable service. Thank you.
The Jewish people respond to death with 3 words of blessing. In English, these words mean, "Praised is the judge of truth." Let us begin our service with the wisdom of our tradition. If you'll repeat these words after me, Baruch, Dayan Ha'emet. Praise is the judge of truth. Adonai Natan, V'Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach. God gives and God has taken. Praise be the name of God.
The 23rd Psalm. Adonai roi lo echsar bin od deshe yarbitzeni al mei menuchot yenaleini nafshi shovev yancheni v'magelei tzedek yancheni v'magelei tzedek leman shemo Gam ki elech begetz al mavet lo ira ki ata imadi shivtecha numishantecha hema yenachamuni Taruch lefanai Shulchan neged tzorai Dishanta v'shemen roshi kosi revaya Ach tov chesed yirdefunni Kol yemei chayai, kol yemei chayai V'shavti beveit Adonai leorech yamim Adonai roi lo echsar Adonai roi lo echsar.
A Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou prepare a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Lakol zman ve'et lakol chafetz tachat hashamayim, et laledet ve'et lamut, et lata'at ve'et la'kor natua, et laharog ve'et lirfo, et lifrotz ve'et livnot, et livkot ve'et lischok, et sefod ve'et rakod, et lahashlich avanim ve'et kanos avanim, et lachavok ve'et lirchok mechabek, et levakesh ve'et la'abed, et lishmor ve'et lahashlich, et lirkoa ve'et litfor, et lachashot ve'et ledaber, et le'ahov ve'et lisno, et milchama ve'et shalom. A season is set for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, a time for planting and a time for reaping, a time for keeping and a time for discarding, a time for loving and a time for hating, a time for embrace and a time for refraining, a time for slaying and a time for healing, a time for laughing and a time for weeping, a time for dancing and a time for wailing, a time for birthing and a time for dying, a time for speaking and a time for silence, a time for seeking and a time for losing. Milton Friedman, Meir Zelig ben Yitzchak Vasara, once known to his great nieces as Uncle Milk, was born November 4th, 1927, and left us just 2 days ago at 89 and a half years old. He was a dear son to his parents, Yitzchak and Sarah, a friend and confidant to his older brother Leonard, a dedicated husband to his wife Doris, a favorite cousin, uncle, and great-uncle. We recognize those today closest to him, his nephew Richard and niece-in-law Robin, great-nieces Abby and Riley, as well as Milton's first cousin Marv, cousins Marty, Mitchell, and Jonathan, and all those who have gathered here today to pay respect to his memory and to support dear friends and loved ones. Born and raised in Cleveland, Milton left Cleveland only for his dedicated service in Japan during World War II, golfing and spending time with Doris in Florida, some other small trips here and there. It may seem that Milton lived a simple life, but his impact on those around him was anything but simple. He was an upright man who loved deeply and committedly. He never departed from his responsibilities, his family, or his faith. In a few moments, we'll hear from his nephew Richard about the special qualities that made Uncle Milt the man that he was. As it turns out, our Torah portion this week deals specifically with how we are to respond to a death in our community. On the surface, Parshat Chukat seems like a black and white list of commands for those who come into contact with the deceased. We learn that we should observe a period of uncleanness for 7 days. On the third of the seventh day, we undergo a cleansing ritual so that we may return to a state of ritual purity at the end of the 7 days. However, like Uncle Milt, there's more depth, more love, and more expressions of values under the surface of this important mitzvah. Not only does the Torah tell us that contact with the deceased brings with it a new status, but we're also told that everything is going to be okay. Time will heal us, and ritual will purify us. As Rabbi Avital Hochstein wrote on this week's Parsha, it is rather a normative demand. Those who come in contact with or proximity to death must respond to it. They may not remain indifferent, neutral, or unaffected. The encounter with death must trigger action, not paralysis. One cannot hide from the encounter with death, nor may one sink into it for a prolonged period of time. And so I encourage those of us gathered today to be so moved by the life and the passing of Milton Friedman. May we be moved to embrace our memories and to allow them to lift us out of our sorrow. May we be moved to live our lives with the same degree of an integrity and passion with which Uncle Milt lived his life. May his memory forever bring blessing into our lives and the lives of all who knew him. And we say, Amen. Richard.
First, I want to thank you all for attending today. I realize that midday and midweek are difficult to navigate. Rabbi Roland asked me to find the essence of what made Uncle Milt the man that he was, and that part is easy. Uncle Milt and my dad learned from my grandfather the importance of being a hard worker, an honest person, a person of integrity, and both of Grandpa's sons made it a key element of their lives. And Uncle Milt also made it a key element of his approach to business. Grandpa taught them the value of dedication to family, and both of his sons made good on that. Another foundational part of Uncle Milt's life was love of his wife Doris. And along the way, he invested energy and enthusiasm for sports. Uncle Milt was raised during the Depression years, but he had too much spirit to be depressed. He found studies easy but boring. He preferred football, shot put, and discus, or as Grandma called it, the biscuit. And he set records for throwing that biscuit at Shaker Heights, and he earned 2 varsity letters. And after high school, he joined the U.S. Army and was a private first class in General Douglas MacArthur's occupational force in Japan. He learned to use a flamethrower, and he earned access to education via the GI Bill. Upon returning home, Uncle Milt enrolled in the Cleveland College of Western Reserve University. Please note that I did not say Case Western Reserve University. The two schools had not yet merged. Western Reserve was a university rated near the Ivy League level. Now, Uncle Milt studied hard and took great pride in his degree in marketing. And when I was employed by the merged university, he would often ask, "So tell me, kid, how are things at Western Reserve?" He had nothing good to say about Case. Old loyalties really stick. I guess the only college course that gave Uncle Milt any difficulty was botany, the subject he didn't really actually need. A few years later, Uncle Milt and my dad were out taking a walk, and Uncle snapped a tree branch and held it toward my dad and said, "You know about this tree, Len?" "No, Milt," said Dad. "Me neither," and I took botany. The 1950s were tough on inexperienced college grads, and Uncle Milt looked long and hard for a job before he finally got a position in the warehouse and at the front counter with a company called Builders Specialties. He was interested in the building industry and pushed for a chance to get on the road as a salesman. And when he finally got the chance, he did well. But the company did not, and went out of business a few years later. But Uncle Milt learned that his dedication to hard work honesty, integrity, and true customer service resulted in sales and profits. And so from there, he caught on with Babin Building Supply and was a top salesman for that company for about 20 years. He also discovered the game of golf and began a passion with the game that stayed with him to the end. I remember watching a tournament on TV with him, and he said, "You see that great shot he made? You know what? I can't do that." One year, he scored 2 tickets to the old Cleveland Open, and as we drove to the country club, the skies were cloudy. And when we got on the shuttle bus, it started to rain, and rain hard. The bus was now filled with disappointed golf fans like us. And Uncle Milt leaned to me and said, "Hey, kid, look at all these foolish people on a shuttle bus going to a golf tournament in the rain." 1982 was an important year for Uncle Milt. In 1982, Babin merged with Forest City. Rather than work with the big corporation, Uncle Milt resigned. Instead, he pursued his own merger. He married Doris, and the two became a team in every aspect of life. It was Aunt Doris who suggested that Uncle Milt start his own company. He was reluctant, saying, "I don't know about bookkeeping, taxes, and vending licenses," but Aunt Doris did, and she encouraged him to call on his old suppliers and customers. And the two of them formed a business called Mildor, Milt and Doris, and soon that little business, driven by Uncle Milt's principles, became a big success. Near the end of the 1990s, Aunt Doris became very ill, and Uncle Milt's devotion to family overrode business. He closed Mildor to care for his wife, and she passed away in 2006. You might have thought he would quit on life without her. Not Milton Friedman. He told me, "As long as I can get around and do stuff, I'll hang around." It wasn't until the last 5 years that his own health made it hard to get around. At one point, he told me, "Everybody would be better off if I just kicked off." I told him, "It's okay to tee up the ball, but please don't kick off." In the last years, I developed a phase in our relationship that I was not permitted to have with my dad, that of adult kid with adult. I could call on him on the phone and say, "Uncle Milt, can I run something past you?" His advice, based on common sense and lifelong good principles, was always the answer I needed to hear, not the one I wanted to hear. He also pinch hit for my dad with a new generation. My father passed away 10 years before I became a father, so Uncle Milk served as designated grandfather to his nieces, determined to find ways to spoil Abby and Riley as much as possible. In the last couple of days, I've had a lot of time to think. I realize I can still call on Uncle Milt for wisdom. I know very well that he was driven by the highest principles. I can run my ideas past those as if he were still here. But you'll forgive me if I wish the ball was still on the tee.
Ask everyone to please rise.
El malei rachamim, shochen bamromim, hametzeh menucha nechona, תחת כנפי השכינה במעלות קדושים וטהורים. כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמת מאיר זליג בן יצחק ושרה. שהלך לעולמו בגן עדן תהי מנוחתו. אנא בעל הרחמים, הסתירהו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום, בשלום על משכבו. ונאמר אמן.
Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure, to the soul of Meir Zelig ben Yitzchak Vesara, to Milton Friedman, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. And we say, Amen. I'll invite us now to recite the words of the Mourner's Kaddish. We hope through our doing so that the soul of Meir Zelig ben Yitzchak Vesara continue to ascend through these months of mourning ahead to places beyond our wildest imaginations, to heights even higher than he was able to in this world. We say together, Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divra kirutei ve'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'vyumechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, b'gala u'vizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu leila mikol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiram be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who makes peace in the heavens make peace for us here on earth. Bring peace and wholeness to the hearts of all of our mourners and to the memory of Milton Friedman. And we say, Amen. You may be seated. We'll continue now in just a moment. We'll invite our pallbearers to come on up. The entombment will be held at the Knollwood Mausoleum. That's 1678 Somme Center Road in Mayfield Heights. Contributions may be made in Milton's memory to Congregation Shari Tikva. Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avoteinu, our God and God of our ancestors, 1,000 years in your sight are as a passing day, an hour of night. The generations come and go while you endure forever. We are always in your hand, Adonai, in death as in life. Help us who mourn the loss of Milton Friedman to look beyond this moment, to realize that death cannot destroy the bonds of your everlasting love. Sustain us with the knowledge afforded by faith that you will not allow us to suffer oblivion, for you, Eternal One, have taught us the way of life. Through you we gain eternity, and let us say, Amen.